Hello guys, can you hear me? I think there's at least one in the chat. Give me a little message if you can hear me okay. Good morning, good Sunday morning. I'm gonna test out some of my screen stuff here real quick. That's good. Yeah, my software updated on me. I'm a little unused to some of the new changes, so just trying to make sure I'm acclimated here. Hey Chris, good to see you this morning. Hope you had a good week. Oh, let's see here. I do usually play music in the background. Let me see if I can get some of that going very softly. Let's see. I really need to put more time into finding some music that we can use that's not copyrighted and won't, grate on our ears while we're talking. And there's a lot to do in all this, actually. Chris, if you are thinking of some topic you'd like to talk about or verses you'd like us to go through, then go ahead and put that in the chat. I do have a topic today that I'm going to discuss because of a discussion I had with somebody this week. And I think it's kind of interesting. It's a little less of a biblical topic, but it's one that I think apparently most people don't think of or don't realize is true. So let's see here. Well, having trouble with my music, so I may not do music this morning. May not do it. Let's see here. Good morning, Jason. It's good to have you. Thank you for joining. Let's see here. Whoa. Oh. Goodness. I have audio issues right now in my earphones. Let's see here. Okay, maybe this will work. Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Laura. It's good to see you guys. Yeah, that is a good topic, Laura. Very good topic. I think we should probably start with that one. That's really good. Why are we not going to church? I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny. But, man, I talk about that all the time with a friend of mine. Trying to get this, okay. I think that's okay. That's soft music. Is that music soft and okay, not in the way? I don't want the music to be in the way. It might get in the way. It's kind of hyper. It's kind of hyper. That's okay. We'll go ahead and get started on the topic of why did we all stop going to church? While I'm about to start on this, why don't you guys put in the chat why you think we stopped? Why we stopped going to church? Let me think too. I want to think harder about this. I don't want this to just, us to gloss over this. I'm putting some bullet points over here for me, for my, so I don't forget them. My memory's not what it should be. Of things I think we should talk about while y'all are putting some of your thoughts in the chat. Okay, so Jason Sumner, you have said here that you think virtual gatherings are just as good as meeting in the flesh. The flesh profits us nothing. I think that's somewhat true. I don't know about you. I miss the physical closeness to people. Even though, well, regardless of any other issues, when I was visiting, going to a Sunday school class, had a group that I was with physically once a week or a few times a week, I think to me that was valuable. I think there is a value in that. So I think virtual gatherings are good. I think that what we're doing is good, but I do think too that I think there's a lot of value to being physically with one another, giving hugs or fist bumps or seeing each other eye to eye. There's something about that that's important. Tomcat, welcome to the chat and welcome to the Sunday morning gathering. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, I do miss church. I do miss church. I'm trying to really ease into this because there's really a lot to talk about. I'm trying to be careful. I don't want to just blunder through it. So what's the reason we all generally stopped going, right? It's really because of the pandemic thing, right? That's really the reason. Although I can say that when that occurred in March of 2020, and the reason I say it occurred in March of 2020 is because that's when everything started happening. When the government started stepping in, right? So yeah, in March 2020, most everybody stopped. But I'll say this, before that happened, me and my family were between churches. We had already left the church because of a lot of issues. I did a video on that on my channel. I think it's called Why I Left My Last Church. And if you watch that, you'll understand. There's just so many different problems that we faced there. Our children not being taught correct doctrine or even just the Bible. The uselessness of that youth program for our children and others. There was such an emphasis on the tithing and a authoritative emphasis on the tithing. And I had come to a decision in my life that the tithe was not exactly what they were telling me it was, and I wasn't tithing at the time. And so I was passed over multiple times because I was nominated multiple times for being an elder, a deacon, and I was passed over multiple times after those nominations because of my tithing. There was just a falseness. There was a falseness about that church that I couldn't tolerate anymore for me or my family. So anyway, that's just to say I personally was between churches with my family and my children. And so when the pandemic hit and March 2020 rolled around, hi Lindsay, it's good to have you this morning. But when that rolled around in March of 2020, and the government started saying, don't meet in public places, don't go to church is especially dangerous, right? That's the weird one, right? They were like, church is especially dangerous. Don't go to church. You can go to the mall, you can go other places, don't go to the church, don't go to church. But anyway, but when that happened, we were already between churches, so we just stayed home, and we found one we like to watch on streaming, and so we started doing that. And so that kind of leads me into the next point I think about this. Let me get my camera a little situated. So I think another point is that we all got comfortable then after that, right? So there was a comfort level with just, for me, for walking to the coffee pot and taking my coffee into the living room and sitting down and watching a service instead of actually participating in one, right? So, I mean, there's a level of participation, I suppose, worship or whatever you do at home, but I think that the reason we're not in church now is partially because of the comfort level we got staying home, and that comfort of not having to get up, not having to get dressed, not having to get the family in the car, not having to go. Subtract all that out of the church experience, and it's pretty comfortable, So I think that's part of why I'm not in a church right now, because I haven't done the work now again to go out and find another one after all that, the 2 years of not having to do that, right? So that's part of it. So to looking at your comments here a little bit, Tomcat says, better to work and think about God than go to church and think about work. I do miss church though. That's kind of funny. I kind of get where you're going there, but that's funny. Robert Carter, you say, less true worship, more entertainment for the congregation. Right. And so this is, I think, kind of the next point. And when I talk with my friends, and I don't have many right now because we've been all holed up in our homes for so long, but particularly I have one friend I do a lot of talking with about this type of thing, and it's a lot of it's about relevance now of the church. So think about what's happened over the last 2 years. We had the whole demic thing. You can fill in the first part of that word, but demic, pandemic, scamdemic, whatever. But that has opened a lot of our eyes to the fact that a lot of things that are being told to us in the political sphere, in our lives in general, are total lies. And just think about the journey we've all been on too during that time period. Some of us have been on the journey of learning that some of the things that we've learned in our churches have been lies, right? So that leaves us in this place where it's like, where is the relevance? Where is the relevance of the church to us in the present time, in the present day? it has become, over the last 2 years, has become more irrelevant than ever before. And especially since we realized that, as we've been talking a little bit about, that the physical gathering is not crucial to our faith. It's not crucial. I mean, it is a good thing. But we've kind of been forced to strip away some of the trappings of Christianity and look at our relationships with God in a very stripped down way. And I think a lot of us have realized that we don't need some of the things that the church was trying to not just provide, but force us into: patterns of behavior, programs. Just think how many times you've heard in your church the word program. Oh, we've got a new program we're starting up for the youth, or the middle school, or the single ladies. We have a program for the divorced singles. We have a program for the, the shut-ins. How many programs were you forced into in your church that were essentially almost irrelevant to you? But, the mantra of the church, once you're in it these days in the modern time, is you got to be active. You got to participate. You got to do the stuff we're doing. You got to be in our programs. And I think that some of that practice, some of those weird things, and I can tell you where I think those things came from, but those things pushed people out, and we've gotten out now for 2 years and realized we don't need those things. We don't need those things anymore. That it's just the practice of what has been done generally and traditionally in churches is irrelevant to most people. Now, I think that, Laura, you're saying, I never liked church as a child. I thought it was because I was bad. But once I became a believer as an adult, I still didn't like it. There's something wrong with it that I saw as a child. See, Laura, I think that that's true reality. Now, I grew up in church, so I felt like it was comfortable. It was like home to me. So some of those practices and traditions of the church I like. But again, like you, there are a lot as I grew up and grew older I questioned. It's like, why do we do this? Why does the pastor give an altar call every Sunday when we don't have any visitors? I mean, that's a silly one, but it's one of the things I wondered about. We do an altar call every Sunday, but there's no visitors in here. Why is the pastor always trying to make us feel bad about ourselves, telling us how bad our sin is? Why is the pastor always talking us down? You don't think of it that way, but really when sometimes you analyze these different sermons you hear week after week after week, it's about tearing you down because of sin so you will repent. Trying to make you feel like you are in some kind of bondage to sin, even though all the writings of the New Testament say you're free from sin. Not that you never sin, but you aren't bound by it any longer if you just repent and move the other direction. So why isn't the church encouraging us to be good rather than denouncing us for being bad? Is the church relevant anymore? I don't know. It could be if it wanted to be, but right now and what has been in our past is not very relevant. You say, Laura, that I liked my friends, but we were forced to go. By the way, I was brought up Catholic. Yeah, and I don't, honestly, I don't have a lot of experience with the Catholic Church. I've been a couple times to Catholic services, but yeah, it's just probably a little different than I was. I was brought up, Baptist, essentially, although I went to a few different types of churches. But yeah, the relevance thing is, I think, one of the biggest things right now. And then look at how the church is responding to the fact that our government is completely corrupt. Our election has been stolen. Our medical community, hospitals, and organizations like that are supposed to be looking out for our health are doing the opposite. So how does the church responding to that? The only church that I even know of that has made a response to that is John MacArthur's church. And the only response he did was to not shut down his church. Now, I mean, and that's laudable. That is, I give him all the respect in the world for doing that, for not shutting down his church over all the other pastors out there. Because, I mean, and I know some probably did the same thing, but I'm just saying on the national level, he's the only pastor that stood up like that during the pandemic. And I will, till the day I die, tell people, John MacArthur at least has a backbone. He at least is willing to stand for his beliefs in God and Christ, because he did it. Right, Robert Carter. This is another point that I think you've nailed, and I didn't even have that in my notes, but you've nailed it. The fact that churches almost always take the 501c3 government status of a nonprofit organization means that they are beholden to the government in some way. Now, you can argue with how much or whether the government enforces that. It has happened that that's been enforced. You're supposed to not say certain things from the pulpit. You're supposed to not, be able to do that. And that's why if I ever started a church, the last thing I would do is allow it to become a 501c3 corporation. I mean, we treat our churches, we run our churches like businesses, and then wonder why people don't relate to that in a correct way. They don't relate to God through that organization in a correct way. Because our relationship to God is not about an organization. It's not about a structure. It's about Him and us. Us understanding Him better and learning about who He is, and then responding to that. If you love Him as your Father, as the one who created all things, as the one who has done everything He can to give you free will and then help you when you make mistakes. If you recognize Him as those things and appreciate that, then you follow Him. And that's what the relationship is in purity, in its purest form. It's not about whether you went to a building once a week or 3 times a week your whole life, So Robert, you nailed it there. That is a huge thing. I mean, I don't even know how to estimate the problems that has caused. I don't even know, let's say I went down to the street corner, started preaching every Sunday and got a gathering. And then I decided, well, heck, I'm going to use my own money and I'm going to rent out a little facility, a little building or something. And I'm going to start having people meet there. And then when people started coming for my church, my new church, how long would it be before the police showed up or the government called me and asked me if I was going to, apply for my 501c3, like how long, or did I have a permit to do what I was doing, or how would they shake me down? I think that's probably what we're looking at here. That's what would probably happen. I mean, it doesn't, that would cause no fear in me whatsoever. I would do it and not worry, but I bet you'd get the shakedown from the government. The IRS would probably hit you up. They would monitor you so close. If you got any donations whatsoever, they would come after you. So, if I ever did something like that, and I've thought about it, just so you know, I would call it, here's what I would call it, the free church. And I would put underneath that message on the sign, I'd put, no tithe allowed. no tithe expected or required. And I probably wouldn't take any tithe. There would be no offering or tithe at all. And what I would preach from the pulpit in that church would be, if you see your brother in need and don't help him, you need to leave this church, leave this body. Because that's what it's about. And that's what the early church was about. When there was needs, we helped each other. When there was needs, we saw the issue and we went individually and helped. So, yeah, I think, Robert, you hit the nail on the head there with that one. Jeriel, I will check my Discord and get in contact with you. I'm sorry about that. I felt a little discouraged with the Discord thing just because first couple, broadcasts, I kind of try to get people into it, and I only have a few, so I just didn't have much interest there. But I will get in touch with you on the Discord, Jeriel. Sorry about that. I wondered why I didn't see an email from you, so I will find that your address there, and I will send you some. Yes, Tomcat, God will supply our needs, not our wants. That's true. That's true. Let's see, what else? So yeah, I think in general, I think COVID and what happened in the last 2 years exposed the church. I think that's what really happened. It exposed the church to the people, even though the guys who ran the whole thing, the bad guys, they thought they were going to get, a bonus in this whole thing by forcing people to stay home. But what they've done is caused us as Christians to see the reality of our relationship to God. Either it was based on straw and sand, and if your relationship was based on those things and it had to do with the church and the practice of going to church, then you may have fallen away and you may never go back to church. You may never have any kind of relationship with God or Christians again. Some people I think are that way. Like they left church when that all hit in 2020. They've never been back, and they don't really see a need to go back because they weren't getting anything from it in the first place. But then some of us, I think it helped us see, and this is what I would put myself in this category, it helped me see a little better how our relationship with God does not depend on that at all. Zero. And how, like you guys are saying, some of you, that we meeting just now and talking through things like this and being a gathering of Christians, this is what the church is about. I mean, what else is there? It's don't forsake the gathering of yourselves together, as the scripture says. We're doing that. And it is online. I would much rather be physically present with you guys. But I mean, I do think that that's true. This whole last couple years where people, stopped going to church, and some started back, and some don't go anymore, and some sit in their homes and worship, and some get online and connect. I think that this has helped us see what church is really about, and it's connecting. And man, God really opened my eyes to this, not just with the last 2 years, but even before that with the Bible Scribe channel. It's helped me see that the body of Christ, now this is something that I didn't know before, I didn't understand. The body of Christ is fluid, and it's all over the world, and it's people. I saw people coming to my channel from all countries of all over the world. I was talking with people. I made friends with a girl in I think she's in Sweden. Yeah, Sweden. It's Sweden. And she has, I'm going to show what she has done. She has impressed me to no end. But connecting with Christians all over the world and feeling that flow of the Spirit across the earth. I don't know how to explain that. I never saw that before in church. It was always about who's in the four walls, who's, coming to church. Can we get anybody else into the church? Can we, what do we do with them when we get them in there? It's not about that. And it's not about whether, it's also not about whether everybody agrees on everything. It's not about if you agree with what I say completely. It's about you and me and us all being on the same path. We're all at different places on the path, to God and to what he wants us to be, but it's about us being on the journey together. I never saw that before. It was always about, are they participating in my church, or are they participating in my belief system? The whole thing about doctrine separating and dividing people is so clear to me now. It's not about whether, do you agree with if it's this Calvinist doctrine of, God's sovereignty. If you don't completely agree with me, then you are ostracized. And that's how Christianity works in the world, in these churches. They use this doctrine and the walls of the church, it's all to divide the body of Christ instead of bring us together. And I think God has let me see that through this channel. He's shown it to me, like connecting with people all over the world. But let me show you one thing real quick. I want to give this girl a little play because she is awesome, and I just want to give her a little. Yeah, here it is. I'm going to share this with you. All right, so this channel on BitChute is a girl that connected with me on my channel. And I don't want to tell her whole life story, but she was an atheist and has come to God. And this channel on BitChute, New Jerusalem, you can find it. You see, I searched the channels on BitChute for New Space Jerusalem, and she was the one that came up. But she does all these amazing videos on how these different occult people in the world, she exposes their symbols. She exposes their symbols. This is a girl that was an atheist, and God started touching her heart. She came to my channel as well. I was thankfully, praise God, a part of that, a part of her journey. But she saw what I was doing. We talked a little bit. She decided to go make her own channel and start calling out these evil celebrities in our culture. And she's in Sweden. She's doing this. I mean, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. She's amazing, and God's working through her. Now, she's not on the same part of the journey to God that I am. Not exactly. I mean, we agree on some things. I'm sure there's things we don't agree on. But she is valuable to God. I'm valuable to God. And this is the Spirit of God moving through the world. Do you see what I'm saying? My eyes were open to this. My eyes were open to this because of the Bible Scribe channel. And so what I'm saying is that the church, and that word church in the Bible is just, it's gathering, right? As far as the definition, it's the gathering of believers all over the world, throughout everywhere. But this type of stuff is happening all over the world right now. This is what we have to wrap our heads around, and we're a part of this. That, oh my goodness, God is doing something in the world right now where people are waking up to a lot of things, and He is part of it. In fact, people are kind of choosing sides right now if you are really paying attention. You have the church and the people I'm talking about that are going after God, the light, if you will, and then there's the darkness, and people are choosing sides right now. Do you see that happening? I see that happening everywhere. Kingdom, welcome this morning. If anyone's joined the chat and I forgot to say hi, I'm sorry. I'm getting on the soapbox now. So, but yeah, denominationalism is part of that division concept. And by the way, if you haven't studied ecumenicalism, it came out of the Catholic Church, and I believe filtered directly into organizations like the Southern Baptist Convention and many other denominations. And they gave rules of how to do worship, rules of how to do Sunday school class, rules of how to build structure or in the organization of the church, and has, I think, corrupted churches all over the world. And that's straight from the Vatican, straight through a movement called ecumenicism. And I mean, if you don't know about it, I mean, I've done one video about it. I could do more. I kind of meant to do a series, and I only did the first one and it's about Billy Graham. But he was part of this movement. And this movement was to divide the church and destroy its effectiveness across the world. And now it's being reimagined, realized, and I think Satan is about to get a taste of his own medicine. Come alive. It's good to have you this morning. You're a new believer that Christ has already returned and reigned for 1,000 years. Okay. So anyway, I think we're about to the end of that topic. If there's anything else on, this, why I stopped going to church or whatever, I think we've pretty much covered it. So I think we'll move on to another topic. Is there another topic that people would like to talk about? Hound Jog, I saw that you joined. It's good to see you, bud. I mean, if you've got ideas on the ways we can strengthen the church, other than, doing what we're doing, I think is valuable. But, yeah, church is an interesting thing. It's an interesting topic. Amazing what God's doing in the world right now. And the good thing about what we're doing too is that, like Robert had said about the 501c3, we aren't beholden to them for anything. We are not beholden to them for a single thing. I can say whatever I want here other than trying not to get banned off of YouTube so that we can have this platform. But there are other platforms. I just would hate to move because everyone seems to use this one. But there are other options. I've considered DLive, which is another streaming service. Rumble is about to get a streaming service. My fear is that because YouTube is so accessible that if we switch, then we'll lose people, which at some point that may be what we have to do. But for now, this is fine. Well, rules have changed on YouTube. That's good. I hope they're better. Maybe they're worse. Oh, Come Alive. Thank you. Thank you. You shared some of my video links. I appreciate that. Thank you. I will check it out. I usually do that, by the way, when people come into the chat and are participating, then sometimes I check your channels out if you have one after I'm done. I just click around through everything, see what people are up to. So I'll do that. Come Alive for sure. Laura, you say, mainly we should not feel guilty about not attending. We came out of her because the church became Babylon. I think that in a symbolic sense, maybe you're right. I think that the mentions of Babylon, particularly in Revelation, are very specific and not related to the church. But I know what you mean. I don't feel, I should say I feel a little guilty. And then when I slap myself, I don't feel guilty anymore. But again, we're in weird times. It's weird times. So it's hard. You want to have a physical connection with people too. I want to go hug people. I like hugging people. I miss hugging people. That sounds weird or something, maybe. I don't care. That's just who I am. My dad was a hugger. Because I truly love people. I don't, it's not a weird thing. I just love people. There shouldn't be a problem with hugging people, or putting an arm around the shoulders or whatever. Kingdom, you left the 501c3ism in 2009 and never looked back. So Kingdom, did you stop going to church at that time, or did you find another way to join with other believers out of curiosity? Yeah, I don't think we should feel guilty about not going to church. I don't think we should feel guilty, but we should realize that we may be missing something. And so I think a connection to people that we can be physically connected to is important. So maybe that means we should reach out in our neighborhoods to those that live nearby, to those that we interact with on a daily basis, that we work with. And that's not always easy, but maybe that's the takeaway, is that, well, we need a physical connection to those close to us. And so maybe we need to reach out more to the people that are closer to us as well. Robert Carter, the Spirit is alive in us, you say, the awakening us to the infiltration of falseness. It's biblical. I love group singing of praise. Hugging is good. Yes, I agree. I do love singing too. That's a good point. I do miss singing together. I mean, in fact, I used to sing as a young person. I did a lot of singing. I did group singing. We had a quartet in high school. I did tons of things like that, and I love it. I'm not much of a solo singer, but I love singing in groups where I can hide. My voice is kind of like mellow, so it kind of like blends well with other people, and that's what I like to do. I like to do that. You started a home church, Kingdom. That's incredible. Are you still doing that? That's really awesome, and I would love to support that, I mean, in any way. That's probably what we all should do, right? Start some kind of home church where we can... You know what's hard, though? Man. What's hard about that is... Well, it's not hard. It's just, probably my own misgivings, my own fears. It's like, what would people do when they get here and they're like... And I say, like, well, Jesus already came. Then you have freak out time, and everybody throws their coffee on your carpet and walks out of the door. I don't know. But Kingdom, if you did that, that's awesome. I fully am excited about that. It's online now, and you're isolated in the desert. You stay inside your house most of the time. Okay, I get it. So, man, that's what we're doing, right? I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. See, I think God was leading this. I think he was leading this, what's happening. He pushed your heart to do that, didn't he? I mean, you didn't do it just for you. It's God's work inside you. Laura, you can sing in your heart, you say, without singing aloud. That's how I used to get through church. I read the music in the back of the book. Yeah. Yeah. But that participation is something I definitely miss, where you're with... there's something amazing about the sound of many voices all together. All together. Kingdom, you watched the movie The Radicals, and that inspired you. Yeah, I don't even know that movie. So I'll just note that down in my notes for me to look at. Yeah. Interesting. So, on the same topic, I mean, so I have a good friend, and I talk about him all the time to you guys, but y'all don't know. I just say a friend, right? It's usually the same friend. He's tried to go back to churches a few times. He has been a member of a home church for a while, even since after COVID and all that. But he has a hard time because he feels like his views, like what I was saying, his views are so divergent from theirs. Not in a big way, but he says they're like infants. They don't know anything about the Bible, and so when he brings up deeper discussions about things in the scriptures, they it's like they can't understand what he's talking about. So he feels like every time he goes, like he's an outcast, like an outsider, like he can't really join in with what they're doing because it feels like, to him, very infantile, I guess, and immature, the things that they say. They don't know the scriptures well. They use all sorts of weird translations to get emotional type responses out of the scripture. And so, that's what I hear from some other people too, but it's just, again, it's that irrelevance thing. It's like the practices that have been built in the churches are strange. They're not Christian. I mean, just think the immaturity of thinking that one version of the scripture holds the truth. Especially an English version. I mean, when you know for a fact every English version you pick up is based on Greek and or Hebrew, so why would you think the English version is the most accurate? So when people go to church gatherings and they aren't at least digging in enough to understand some of the verses in a very literal way from the original translation, if you don't dig in that much, I mean, you might be getting, it depends on the verse, you might be getting the true meaning of the verse. I mean, so here's the thing. This is an interesting topic. This is an interesting topic. And I'm gonna put it on the board just because I'll talk about it for a minute. And then, Laura, I see your comment. Maybe we'll talk about that too. Bible translations. So, what I just said, I think, is important for every Christian to understand. Every English version, or if you're from another country and you have it in your own modern language, every version of the Bible is based on other languages. And so if you understand translation between languages at all, you know that it always loses a little in translation. It sometimes cannot be a perfect word for word or thought for thought translation from one language to another. And that would be if you were going from French to Russian or German to Swahili. There's no perfect way to translate it. I'll admit, so when I first learned Spanish in high school, I started reading some of the Bible in the Spanish version, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I realized that it's a lot different to them. They read it and they see the word padre, el padre. Okay, and that's where we say father, but that's used in place of the word Lord, in place of the word God. It's el padre. So they don't use the word God. Well, I guess they do. They have Dios, right? But I just realized that some of the intonation and changes between those two languages, even Spanish and English, some of the meanings change slightly. And that's just the nature of translating from one language to another. So if you don't read the Bible in your native language and realize that that's a translation, and that if you wanted a perfect understanding, you would really need to go back and look at the ancient language underneath, Greek or Hebrew, and see how they translated it, and if you agree with that. If you don't acknowledge that that is true, then you will forever be stunted in your study of the scriptures. Forever. Now, to back away from what I just said a little bit, so then you would say, well, how can I understand it then if what's in my language isn't true, is not the perfect translation? Let me back off and say, for the most part, if you're careful with the English and you're careful with which translations you use, you can get pretty stinking close to the original meanings, okay? Pretty stinking close. There's still some things that are tough, but most, 99 point whatever percent, will be pretty close. So, when people come and ask me, like, what version of the Bible to use? What version of the Bible should you use? I tell them generally to start with two versions, and that's the New King James or the King James. And the New American Standard. And there's a reason I choose those two. Because the King James is one of the oldest ones we still use, right? And so it came from translations from people that probably had a little better idea of the meanings than we do in the modern time. They were closer to some of the manuscripts that we don't even have anymore. They used some older manuscripts that we have copies and copies and copies, but I'm just saying, it's the way the world understood the Bible for centuries, is the King James. But then you use the New American Standard because it is a very literal, and they tried to push towards thought for thought in the Greek and pretty literal understanding of the Greek words. So if you use those two together, you say, you read the New King James, and then when you want to dig in on something, you pull up the New American Standard. You look at that same verse, then you'll get another perspective, and you can say, well, that one's more probably like the Greek. So you see how they translated the two, and you compare them. And at that point, you're getting pretty close without having to do any work in ancient languages. Now, if you want at that point to get deeper, I would say you go on like BibleHub.com or whatever help you've got to dig into the Strong's concordance for the words you're reading. And I usually do that on a verse-by-verse basis. And so that then gives me a more full understanding of what words I'm reading in the Greek and why they were translated into the English that I'm reading. So that's my little epithet, my little advice on Bible translations. There are other translations that are okay, but I'm just saying from my experience, the combination of paralleling the King James with the New American Standard is almost unbeatable without going into ancient Greek or ancient Hebrew using Strong's Concordance or interlinears, that type of thing. So it's what level do you want to go to? You choose, but the deeper you go, the better a translation you'll get, and the more you'll understand what God originally intended when He inspired people to write those things down, or what the writer intended. So let me catch up now on your comments, because I went off on my rant on Bible translations, so I hope that's helpful for some of you. Robert, I see you may already be gone. I see you had to run. That's fine. Thank you so much for your input this morning and on our original topic of church. And man, thank you for joining. I will catch you next time. So let's see what you guys have been talking about here. Laura, you had mentioned another topic, the series called The Chosen, made by Mormons and Catholics. I watched it suspiciously. Has anyone seen it? I must say I have not seen it. So let me... Actually, wait, now that I'm thinking about it, did I hear of this and I just didn't watch it? Yeah, I remember this thing, The Chosen. The Chosen, let's see. So let's go on IMDb real quick. I just want to see if I get information here. A charismatic fisherman struggling with debt. Whoop. A troubled woman wrestling with demons, a gifted accountant ostracized from his family and people in this groundbreaking first season of The Chosen. Very interesting. Yeah, I think I remember when this came out, I heard of it, but I didn't really pay any attention. See how Jesus reaches each of these people and more as he works his first miracles and embarks on his ministry to change the world. See him through the eyes of those who knew him. And you say, Laura, this was done by the Mormons and Catholics. I have not seen this. Has anyone else seen this? I don't know. I don't know about this. I'm going to have to find it and watch it maybe. Here's a review. I was excited to have access to the first 4 episodes. The series is unlike any biblical portrayal of the life of Christ to date. The characters are fresh and real. Check out Abigail and Jesus who winks and doesn't glow or act ethereal. Now, what movie are they talking about where Jesus glows or acts ethereal? People are so weird, especially atheists who hate God and hate Christ. These first 4 episodes bring the Gospels to life in a way that immerses us into a culture and recounting that feels authentic. Kudos to everyone involved. Interesting. Now, I don't know much about this, Laura. I don't know much about this. Maybe I'll find a chance to watch it soon. Come Alive says, I watched the first season of Chosen, but that's all. Interesting. Yeah. I could watch it maybe, and I'm worried I would end up doing a debunking video on it. I don't know. I don't know much about it. What else have we got here? What else have we got here? It's hard to feel safe. Houndjog, you said it's hard to feel safe in church with people who think they are more righteous than you. Yeah. Because they took the jib jab. The jib jab. Yeah, if that's what people are acting like, then yeah, it's not good. I don't know. It's so terrible. That division of people is really grating on my nerves nowadays, if that still exists. I mean, honestly, I have to believe because people cannot be that dumb. I have to believe that the majority of people now realize that you shouldn't divide based on that. And number 2, you shouldn't tell people what they should do about it. If people aren't even there yet, then they're done. They're lost. And I don't mean lost as in not saved. I mean they're idiots. They're totally blind and totally overcome with the narrative of the world. The narrative of the media and the government and the organizations for health. So if people are still doing that, that's ridiculous. If that's true. I really would hope that that's not true. In fact, it would make me so mad that if I went to a church where they were doing that and I would go up to them and like talk really loud and spit in their face while I was talking and then hug them and kiss them on the cheek. Because they deserve that. People are so dumb. Some people, I just don't get it. What happened to us? What happened to us? Laura, you said it's funny, I don't want to be around them because they're uninformed and they shed. Yes. I mean, I don't know about the shedding. I don't know about that. I see that's being talked about all over the place. How would you ever verify that? I just don't know. I just don't know. It's not something, I guess it's not something, I'm saying it's not something I've worried myself with. If that's truly happening, then we're all screwed. We're all screwed. I mean, just think about that. If the shedding is just as bad as taking the thing, we're all screwed. So you've all got it, whatever it is. So I'm not worried about that. I can't stop that, right? No matter what I do. I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to pick up an item that someone else picked up. Did they shed on it? I don't know. You can't avoid that. Laura, you said 95% of the people you know took the jib jab. Yeah, a lot of people. A lot of people did. A lot of people. Jonathan Kleck. Houndjog, you... Laura, you say I don't even want to look at people wearing masks. I know it's bad. I mean, I will admit, the good thing is where I live, that I see about less than 3% of people wearing them now. Less than 3%. I mean, almost, maybe 1 in 10. Maybe 10%. Max. There's not many people still doing it. But I was at a place where I worked the other day and I saw a guy wearing an N95. It even said across it, N95. Like he thought he was all safe. And then when I came in, I was introduced to him. He shook my hand. So it's like, I'll say this. The very first week when they tried to start shutting everything down and they started telling you couldn't go in places without a mask, I was like, can't go in a store without a mask? We're touching all the same stuff. It makes no sense whatsoever. If it's airborne, it can definitely be surface-borne. You just breathe on something and then touch it. We're passing those germs around all the time anyway. So there's no sense in wearing a freaking mask. It's the dumbest thing ever. I knew that day one. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. I will admit, I went along with it for a while just so I could go shop, right? I went along with just wearing the thing. But I knew it was stupid. And then I will say, much earlier than they allowed, the rules changed, I stopped. I was like, this is so stupid. I'm not doing it. I'm going to just let them yell at me. And thankfully, I shouldn't say thankfully, but no one yelled at me, right? I got some dirty looks. I got some people like walking away from me. Because it's so scary. I'm so scary with no mask on. So scary. You know what? You're scary with a mask on. So stupid. Oh my goodness. Squiffy Bear, good morning. I see you now. I see you joined. Thank you. Yeah. So I was going to look up Jonathan Kleck. I don't know his name. So let me look him up. Jonathan Clegg, the official site right here. Bell ringer for Jesus Christ. The video, Just a Messenger series, is exercising the spiritual gifts the Lord has given me. So I'll put this on the board real quick. Jonathan Clegg. There you go. Because I'm looking into who is Jonathan Clegg. Let's listen to a little Jonathan Clegg. Why not? Because we can.
Ready. Hi, my name is Jonathan Kleck. I'm here with my friend Dan, and I'm here to do a DVD. I need to show you guys and show everyone that's watching this a body of evidence that's been given to me through the Holy Spirit. I got saved in 2002. I had a supernatural experience with the Lord, and when I did, He changed my life forever. Thank God, praise God. He changed me in just an incredible way. And when He did, He gave me some awesome spiritual gifts. The Bible talks about these gifts in 1 Corinthians 12 talks about spiritual gifts, and it says, a manifestation of the Spirit is given to each person that gets saved. And what God does is He gives you a spiritual gift that's manifested through you, and it's the Holy Spirit working through you, and it's evidence of God. It's kind of like evidence of the wind. There's a lot of images that have been colored in, and the reason I've colored them in is because there's a lot of hidden stuff in here. This hieroglyph is 1,300 years before Christ, and this hieroglyph is going to explain Matthew 24 in the Bible, Mark 13 in the Bible, Luke 21, and for those of y'all that don't know about those passages, those deal with the second coming of Jesus Christ and the end of the world, and there's some very specific stuff in those scriptures. There's some very specific things that are mentioned in those scriptures that I'm going to bear witness to.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about this guy. This has already perked my interest and red flagged because of his interest in these hieroglyphs from Egypt that are mostly probably about Set, Osiris, Horus, and the pantheon of Egyptian gods, which I believe were demonic. And, he may say something silly like some of the atheists say, where they say, the Christian, resurrection myth is just like the Egyptian myths of the resurrection of Set. And I don't remember the story exactly, but where, one of them chopped Set up into pieces and then put him back together, except for the the phallus, the penis, and then I don't know, Osiris or one of them made a golden one and then resurrected him. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's what the Satanists believe. They believe that stuff. In fact, some of the modern Satanists, they worship some of those gods. So this right now is a red flag to me. I don't know any more than this. I'm not saying Jonathan Kleck is a bad guy. I don't know anything about him, but right now, what I just heard, just 30 seconds of his video, is a red flag. But I would keep watching to find out what he's talking about. Now, some of this other stuff, symbolism in the dollar bill, maybe he's talking about, some of this stuff, and it's legitimate. I mean, I agree with that, that there's a lot of symbolism being used out there by the elite. So, yeah, Hound Jog, I mean, it's a red flag, but that doesn't mean I would stop watching it necessarily. I would watch it with caution. Yeah, that's all. So that's essentially how I would approach that, just with caution. Maybe I'll watch some more this week, find out more about what he's actually teaching, and then we could talk more about that. So I put that in my notes so I can check it out more. Laura says, Kleck gives truth but mixed with lies. He had a company called Vampire Eyewear. Ooh, that's also a red flag. Yeah, why would you, if you were a Christian, why would you have a company called Vampire Eyewear? If you have any sensibility to what Satan's doing in the world right now at all, you wouldn't do that. I mean, but I will say, modern Christians seem to pretend like they can use Satanistic names, terms, ideas, symbolism, and get away with that being fine. Like, oh, it's no big deal. It doesn't mean anything. Well, it does. It means something. But Lindsay, you say that he says an angel got him and said, do the Hail Mary 3 times. Okay. Hail Mary. That's, so is he Catholic? I don't get it. I will say that part of Catholicism is very much an enigma to me, the Hail Mary. And I mean, you can say it's Ishtar worship. I don't know if I 100% believe that that's true. It maybe to some of them, I mean, the ones that believe it's Mary they're talking to, whatever. I don't know. It's just a really odd thing. It's also something that Jesus Christ never taught us to do. So that in and of itself is enough for me not to give any credence to a Hail Mary or praying to Mary or anything like that the Catholics do. But, it sounds like now there's just this Kleck guy is someone to watch out for, right? Someone to watch out for, not necessarily just believe everything he says. I will say all the things on his wall behind him there in those videos they're all occultic. They're all esoteric. So unless he's going to denounce all those things, but it sounds like he's instead saying, oh, they point to things in the Bible. Well, that's what the Gnostics say. That's what the Gnostics and the esoterics say. And the Satanists also, the Satanist esoterics say, yeah, you Bible guys, you don't understand. Those Jews just put in the esoteric ideas into their religion. They co-opted them. Well, that's bullcrap. That's backwards from the reality. And so, but that's what the bad guys say. So this guy's on my list as someone I need to probably find out about. So I don't know. Mark and Amy Dalton, some friends of mine are Jehovah's Witnesses. I was shocked to find out they took the jab solely based on the advice of their Kingdom Hall leaders. Yeah, I don't know about... I tend to think that most of these Christians plus Christian cult denominations, if you call them that, whatever you call them, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, they've all essentially, I think, been co-opted into the kind of globalist order. So it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all, really. But I mean, I don't know. Laura says there's a new big deal in the Catholic world about Padre Pio, a new movie. Shia LaBeouf stars in it and is converted to Catholicism. Did you guys hear about the Pope dismantling or changing the Knights of Malta just last day or two? Pope Francis, quote, Pope Francis apparently just gutted the Knights of Malta and is rebuilding it in a more, quote, democratic way. I don't know what this even means. You know, I would really have to study this, but I was just curious if you guys heard about that or if you knew anything about it. We are actually talking quite a bit about Catholicism today. I realized when I heard that news, number one, okay, so about a week ago, did you hear that the Pope ordered all Catholic organizations and building whatever groups to send all of their money, all of their excess money to the Vatican Bank? I'm not kidding you. This really happened, like just a few days ago. He calls and sends a papal announcement. Let's see here. Oh. Here's the one on the Knights of Malta. He dissolves the Knights of Malta. He guts and neuters the Order of Malta, not so sovereign anymore. Democratization of the order is among the main changes for the institution. The new constitution eliminating the rule for the Grand Master and top knights requiring a noble background. I'm not even sure how to interpret like what this means for them. But that was reported in RT News, which is, of course, it's banned. It's bad because it's Russian. It's banned. Let me just tell you right now, you better listen to what Russia is saying. I'm just saying in my opinion, Russia is about the goodest of the good guys right now in the world. You better listen to what Putin and Russia are saying. But I was trying to find the other thing where I don't think I recorded the thing about the money, but that's totally what happened a few days ago. The Pope he put in a papal bull, like one of those, it was in, I have somewhere I saved it's in Italian, of course, but I saved it, and he sent out, and it was like, every church order everywhere, send all your money into the Vatican Bank. We're going to keep it here. That to me tells me that something big in the financial system's coming and they're preparing. And then this is another thing. It's like, wow, this is a huge change. What the heck's going on? Maybe we're taking down the Vatican. I hope so. Jacob Law, Utah. Thank you for joining, man. Yeah, the Catholics are running the show. Yeah, I mean... Which Vatican? Who's running the show? You mean the Vatican that looks like a snake? Yes, the Vatican Papal Hall, it looks like a snake. Or maybe the beautiful sculpture behind the Pope of the demons, where he sits every time he does anything. This Catholic Church, the Vatican, do you think they could be the bad guys? Maybe. They might be the bad guys. I'm just saying. Yeah, this type of thing is unreal. Like, when I first saw this, I was like, why has no one ever told me about this? This is ridiculous. Yeah, this is supposedly the leader of the Christian church in the world. What was it? Pope, not Benedict, the one, the other pope that actually had a normal looking face. I think it was the one before Benedict. He was saying that, I think he said that Satan has infiltrated the church, essentially. I think he made a mention of something like that. But yeah, this stuff, you can't make this up. Like, do Catholics see this stuff? That's my question. Do Catholics see this? Do they see this stuff and then say to themselves, oh, that's actually a good thing. That's not, this is, you know what they say about this sculpture on your screen? They say, this is Jesus. He's taking souls out of hell. If that's Jesus, oh my goodness, please. No, that's not. Here's another one that's interesting. Vatican, the Pomodoro Sphere at the Vatican. Have y'all heard of this or seen this? Have you seen this sculpture? These are done by a specific artist named Pomodoro, and they're all over the world, and they're only at the locations of the elite and Illuminati. And here's one right at the Vatican. And it actually, it spins. It just slowly turns. Yeah, Jacob Law, I can't believe, I mean, they have to know it's bad, right? But I think they suppress it too. They're like, oh, that's weird, but I just think overall the church is still good or something. How do they justify this stuff? This is essentially, oh, here's the mechanisms that control the world. Here's the inner world that is controlling the outer. Like, to me, this is the elite saying, yeah, we control the world. We know the mechanisms of it. We turn the gears. That's what they're saying with this. Yeah, it is like the Denver airport. They put it in plain sight. It's not... They have to. That's part of their agreement with Satan. I mean, it's not an agreement with Satan. It's the rule of the spiritual world. They have to project what they're doing. They have to tell at least enough about it to where you should be able to recognize it. And that's the deception then. And that's by the way, a directive from God. It's a spiritual law. And so they know that they have to follow that law. As far as Satan knows this, he has to follow that law. He can't just, and there's writings about this. There's ancient writings about Satan's relationship to man and how he can cause him to sin and tempt him. He can't go past certain lines. But that as a man gives over himself to Satan, then Satan's allowed more control over that man. So they have to in some way project what they're doing in front of us. And this is one of the ways they do it with these sculptures, with these things. They think, oh, we're telling you, you're just not listening. So if you're not listening, our hands are clean. We told you because we put up these weirdo sculptures and symbols and stuff. They're saying essentially but that's really deceptive. And I think this is part of what God will judge in the end. They will be judged for this in the end because it's total deception. But yeah, they do, quote, reveal what they're doing. I mean, I can't even... There's so many evil sculptures all over the place. Like, what about the lizard man? What about that? I don't even remember where this one is. I don't remember at the present time where this one is. It's lizard man. Why are the elite putting black cubes all over the world? Denmark, Manhattan, Australia, Santana. Why are they doing this? Why are these all over the place? They're revealing it. They're revealing all of it. No, we're not ignorant. I mean, now, thankfully, people are starting to wake up to this. Starting to. It's all over. Here's one that hurts my soul. The statue of George Washington doing the as above, so below with his hands. Have you seen this before? This used to be out in Washington, D.C., out in the public, but they moved it because it essentially showed a kind of Masonic thing, and so they hid it. You know, it's now an indoors thing. I don't know. Elmo, I don't know why I have that there, but there's the George Washington statue, as above, so below. Here's the sword to make it so, I guess. I don't know. You know, and there's a possibility that this isn't necessarily a satanic meaning, but it is Masonic in origin, Gnostic, if you will. There's just a lot of things like that. Every time I want to find some of this stuff, I have a hard time finding it. I have this database that I put together of tons of this crap, and I'm searching it right now to see if I can find some of these other things, because it's right in front of us everywhere. Right in front of us. There must be a lot of these because it's taking forever here. It's really taking a long time. I'm upset a little bit that Kingdom Within is not on. He had asked me a question this week that I wanted to answer on this call, but he didn't join. So, oh, here we go. This is what I was looking for. Some of these. Like in Rome, they set up Moloch. I mean, did you know about this? This is in Rome. They just set this statue up in the public. It's Rome. It's Moloch. you can't, you know, it's just crazy. And then of course there's the obelisks everywhere all over the world they're phallic Egyptian symbols. Esoteric symbols, really. We have one in Washington, D.C., right? I mean, they're all phallic symbols. It's not some mystery. You know, there's the Washington Monument, whatever. I mean, we have obelisks all over the world. Yeah, Egyptian ones in Luxor. Of course, I think the origin was Egypt, right, of all of that. But St. Peter's Square in the Vatican has its own obelisk. It's an affront to God, but it's in the Vatican Square. So, I mean, that to me is like, there's tons more. I really need sometimes, like, here we go. Oh, this is a horrible one. Have y'all ever heard of this statue by Damien Hirst? This is the kind of statue that the elite love. They love this kind of stuff. Look at this. It's horrific. It's a pregnant woman with the skin peeled off so you can see underneath everything. It's literally horrific. She's not very, I mean, she's unattractive anyway. But they have no respect for woman, and they have no respect for the child. It is disgusting, Squiffy Bear. This is what the elite love. They love this stuff. It's horrific. Why would I want to go anywhere or drive down the road and see that big nasty thing sitting somewhere? It's huge too. See how big that is? Look how big that is. Those people down there. It's huge. Yeah, Katie, I agree with you. They're going to get what's coming to them. It's just a matter of time, I think. It's just hard getting there. It's not easy to defeat evil of this size, you know. It's just so much. It's going to take time. We won't even go over the statues in John Podesta's home, will we? No, we won't. Oh, goodness. So crazy. Well, is there any more topics we want to hit before we leave? Because it's about time. I need to go soon. In fact, I will be attending watching a service with my family on TV of a different church. So we do that every Sunday too. I think that's probably, we should just end there because it's of the time. We usually go about an hour and a half. Thank you guys so much for your time today and for joining. And, you know, part of our initial discussion it was so important, that discussion about why don't we go to church anymore? But we are in a church. This is a church. You guys and me gathering together, that's a church. That is the church. We're a part of it. There's no need for anything else. It's us. We are the church. We are going in the direction of God. We're all on the path in a different spot, and we're going together. We're helping each other. And we love each other. We're helping each other get there. That's what this is all about. Even though we have some disagreements. I know we disagree on some stuff. But I am excited that we can gather like this, and we are pushing the kingdom forward in the midst of all the craziness going on, guys. In the midst of everything. I mean, can you just imagine how powerful that is? Imagine what God's doing, not only with us, but with people like us all over the world right now. People are choosing sides, and I think the church of God is rising, and it's the real church. The one that has always been there, but we really didn't see it. We were blinded to what the real church was. So just go today with joy, knowing that you are a part of that, and I'm a part of that, and that God is moving. And this is bigger than we even believe it is, I think. Yes, Lindsay, I do remember the obelisk in the desert during the lockdown. That is another weird one. I'm going to put that on my notes because I want to remember to research that thing a little further. I remember seeing that. Guys, y'all have a great week. It has been good to see you. And God bless you all, and take care of yourselves till next time. Goodbye.